Hello everyone. So till now, we have done some work with the Spring Boot application, right? In the last session, I have told you about the database connectivity with your Spring Boot application. Now in this slide, I will tell you how you can implement the database functionality in your Spring Boot application. So for this, I have designed a Spring Boot application, and in this application, I have implemented some database logic like how you can insert the data in the database and search the data like that. So it would be a CRUD application using the Spring Boot and the S2 database as the backend part of our application. So let me switch to the project part. So you can see on the screen, this is my implementation part. Let me discuss the structure of this particular application. Although I have told you the structure earlier, but again I am repeating the same. So in this application, the name of this application is the Spring Boot CRUD operation, right? So you can see the project is divided into some packages, some type of other type of files, JDK, and some other dependencies. So let's start with the source part, like the Java code part. So we have the 3 to 4 packages there, and this is the default package, and the default package contains the main method of the application. So this is the main package, Spring Boot CRUD. This is the controller package. This one is the entity package. Entity package will be work like the mapping of your Pojo class to the relational database. Repository, this is the business logic of the application, right? And this is the implementation. So in the repository, as we have already done this particular part, so in the repository, we will create the interfaces, and the repository IMP, implementation part of the repository, will be the complete business logic, right? So these are some layers of this particular application. Like this is the controller layer, the entity layer, the repository layer, the persistence layer you can see, right? So these are some layers of your application. So let me discuss one by one everything. This is the main method actually of this application, this Spring Boot application we are using. So this is the annotation we have already applied. So this is a notation, or you can say identification of your Spring Boot application. This is the controller package. In the controller package, let me open it. So in this particular class, student controller, so this is the REST controller class. And in the REST controller class, we have the API to add the student. We have the API to remove the student. We have the API to search the student. So we have already implemented some APIs endpoint, or you can say web endpoint, web services here. So this is the controlling. This is the main, you can say, controlling part of your application. The user will directly interact with this particular controller endpoint, like add student, remove student with the ID, search student with the ID, right? So this is the controller part. Let's go to the entity part. So entity would be our student. So entity would be the same as your normal Java class, but remember one thing, you need to use the @ of entity. So entity indicates that this particular class directly maps with your database table. So when you run this particular application, automatically student table will be created. Okay. So this is a constructor. You already know the working of the constructor. And the ID means this is the, in terms of the database, I would like to say, this would be the primary key. So student ID would be the primary key. Name of the student, branch, and college. ToString method, right? Constructor with parameters, and the setter and getter methods we have already added, right? Now go to the repository part. So this is a repository. A repository uh, will be the interface, not the class, because this will provide the API for the CRUD, because we are indicating it with the annotation as a repository. So repository provide you the repository for the CRUD operation. So for the CRUD operation like insert, delete, search by ID, search by name, so all these type of functionality is being added with the help of the JPA repository. Remember it very carefully. Listen here, the JPA repository we are using. So in the JPA repository, you need to pass two parameters. One is the entity class. So student is the entity class in our project, and long is the type of your primary key, or you can say the ID. So if you go to the student class, you will see the ID. This is the long, right? So whenever you are creating the repository for a specific Pojo class, you need to map with the wrapper class. So all the methods of the CRUD operation contains inside the JPA repository interface, right? So now go to the implementation part of this particular business logic, or you can say the implementation. So let's first how you can add a student in the database, right? So how you can add the student in the database. A repository implementation means we are doing the business logic implementation in this particular class. So let me first do the addition of the student in the database. So first you need to create the method here like add student. In the student add method, we are passing the parameter as a student reference. So this is the reference of your repository. Like we have created the interface, so you just auto wide here your interface student credit. Student credit is the interface in our application. So you are just directly instantiating with the help of the auto wired annotation. So I'm using the add student method. You can see here you are using the student credit. This is the reference of the repository, and you are using the save method here, right? So save is a predefined method. If you want to save any object into the database, you can use the save method. It's a predefined method. We are getting it from the JPA repository, right? Once it's done, then you are sending, or you can say returning a message to the user, student added successfully, right? So let me start and verify this particular message or the operation, right? So this is the business logic, and go to the controller part, because controller is the directly uh, connect with the browser, or you can say user request. So I'm created some type of student here in the controller, and student cred IMP is the repository IMP part where I have implemented the business logic of the student third operation. So like add the student, right? So what I'm doing here, I have created the endpoint add student for the get method. Okay. So get post I have already told you in the REST API earlier. The same REST API method I'm using here. So here I'm created another method, and earlier I have created this particular method add student, and I'm adding the s to the student, so it will directly reach to the student cred imp class. So student cred imp class here it reached and reach to this particular method, and we have passed the st2 of the student reference, and this particular student would be added into the database. And database configuration, I have told you in the last session how you can configure your S2 database. So in my application, S2 database is already being configured. So you can say, you can see here, this is the S2 database configuration, and the properties file. I have also do the connection of the database. Yes, so this is the everything is available here. So now I am going to test the API here. Okay, so let me go to the uh, main method of the application. Right, this is the main application. Right click and Spring Boot app. It will take some time initially and give you some default message. Yeah, application is running mode. So let me see first S2 database is configured or not. So it is running on the 9991 port, and for the S2 database, we need to check. Yeah. So connection console is available at the S2 console. So let me open the port number. So let me open this, and localhost. So just click on this 9991. And go for the add student. Yeah, add student. Just hit this particular. Yeah. So you can see we are getting the message. Student added successfully. We are getting this message. So let me check out this student is being added in the database or not. So for this, we need to go to the S2 console on 9991. So let's go to localhost 9991 and S2 console. Yeah, this one. Connect this particular console, right? And this is student table you are getting here, and just run this query and see the result. You can see the student details have been added in the database what we have tried to add. So let me check again, cross verify RAM ABS IT 2091. So let me check it. Same student is being added or different one? 2091. Go to the controller part. Yeah, Yes, so we have added the S2 student, S2, and S2 student is the RAM IT ABS 209. So again, correct data is being added. So now let me check again and add the different student. So I am instead of the S1, I am using the Prashant IT ABS as the S3 student. So let me save it so that it is reconfigured. So it is being reconfigured, you can see, right? So let me go to this particular and add CV console, connect